Welcome, folks, to the Simo Ray English Language Production Series, Fly on the Wall. These are discussions between two native English speakers. Please listen up very carefully because these are discussions as they really happen. Here are some contact details if you'd like to know more. Please write them down, or you can come back to this part and contact us at either any of these contact addresses. Before we get into this, I'd like to remind you that presentations in this series are completely unrehearsed in order to give students an authentic experience of off-the-cuff discussion. They're spontaneous spoken answers just as we expect of our students. So please listen carefully, as this is English as it is really spoken, warts and all. We're making mistakes. There will be grammar errors. There might even be pronunciation errors. But remember, this is not out of a textbook. This is authentic, real material. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Simo. Hi, Simo.
G'day Ray, how are you this morning?
Oh, I'm fine. And by the way, I'm Ray, the Ray part of Simo Ray. Simo is the Simo part of Simo Ray. All right, let's get on with it. Today we're going to be talking about smoking. Is it good or is it bad? Look at this guy, Simo.
Oh man, he looks like he had quite a few cigarettes in his lifetime.
It sure looks that way, and look where he's ended up.
Smoking Sam in the ground.
Yeah, smoking Sam. He doesn't look very healthy, does he? Simo, smoking kills. I think you'd have to agree with that, but why don't people seem to understand this?
Well, I'm a smoker myself, Ray, and I know and completely understand the damage it causes through all the scientific research with regards to smoking, yet I still smoke. Now, I believe it to be because tobacco and the chemicals that they add to tobacco are addictive. It's a drug. And just like any other drug, Ray, it is very hard for people to stop smoking. And I've met many people throughout my life and my travels who have tried many times to give up smoking unsuccessfully. And these people, like myself, are in total understanding that what they are doing by smoking is actually killing them, Ray.
Yeah, look at these. These are lungs taken after autopsy, I sure hope. The one on the right is the lungs of a person who obviously smoked, and the ones on the left are from a person who didn't smoke. I also used to smoke, Simo, but I gave it up about 30 years ago. They reckon it takes about between 5 to 7 years for your lungs to regenerate, and I'm very happy to think that my lungs look like the ones on the left right now. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, look at these pictures here. Look at this young fellow. I think this is a very telling picture. He's got a bomb strapped to his head. In other words, what they're trying to say is that by smoking, you might as well just strap a bomb to yourself and blow yourself up. It's going to get you eventually. What about the one on the right? What do you think of that?
I reckon that's a very good image, and it tells the story. It more or less is saying if you smoke, you're going to end up a skeleton and very, very dead, Ray. Very dead. Now, with regards to the first image with the boy with the dynamite strapped to his head, a lot of people just think smoking only affects the lungs, but smoking affects all parts of your body,
Right.
because of the blood circulation. When you're smoking this poisonous toxic chemical, it comes in through your lungs, it mixes with your blood and gets circulated throughout your body. Smoking can cause you to lose your limbs, like your toes, your fingers.
Yes,
It
yes.
also can send dangerous toxic chemicals to your brain.
Yeah, right. Spot on. I've heard of people losing legs and things like that, but they continue to smoke.
Like I said, Ray, I'm considered to be quite a inner strong person with inner strength, but as far as smoking is concerned, I'm just totally addicted. I've had a lot of trouble trying to give up smoking. I go through all different mood swings, and I have one of my best friends. He had to have open heart surgery because of smoking. He gave up smoking for 3 years after the surgery, but now he's starting to smoke about 6 or 7 cigarettes a day again, Ray.
Oh, that's a dangerous sign. He's on the way back, isn't he? Is smoking a problem in your country?
Not so much now, Ray. The last 10 to 15 years, because of the quality of the deterring advertisement of smoking, the gory pictures that are on cigarette packets, education in some schools and the media with regards to smoking, I think that there's less people starting smoking in my country than other countries.
Right, yeah, okay. Well, of course, we both live in Vietnam now. I think smoking seems to be quite a problem here. A lot of people smoke here, although I have noticed that not many women smoke here.
No. Women who smoke in Vietnam are not thought of in a positive way. They kind of well, I don't really like seeing women smoking in any country.
Yeah, I think very much in Vietnam in particular, women who smoke are looked on as tarts. Wouldn't you think so?
Well, yeah, that's a fair word to use. Yes, it cheapens them.
Yeah, I think it does. So they tend to want to keep their traditional values by not trying to put that image across. I mean, I have seen Vietnamese women smoke, but not very often.
Not many, Ray. I haven't seen many women smoke in Vietnam at all. But like you said, the men in most Asian countries, particularly Vietnam and Cambodia, are heavy chain smokers.
Oh, actually, in China too, it's they smoke a lot. Men smoke a lot. Women don't, not as much. What do you think about things like no smoking signs in public places? Do you think most people obey these non-smoking restrictions where they exist, or and is there much social pressure from people for people to obey them? You see this picture here: a policeman sitting underneath a no smoking sign, smoking. In Vietnam, I've seen this actually happen a number of times.
Well, with regards to smoking restrictions in Australia, I think they've worked very well. In Australia, there aren't very many places where you can smoke, Ray. Also, because there are less people smoking in our country, the social pressure of smokers is highlighted more. Before there might have been, out of 100 people, maybe 60 people might have smoked, where maybe the statistics on the smokers would be around about 35 people out of 100. So you got 65 people telling you to please don't smoke near me.
Yeah, okay. All right. So there is a bit of social pressure on them, you think so? Oh, look at this picture. This guy's loading up his gun with his pistol with cigarettes.
I really like this image, Ray. It tells the story. A cigarette is more or less a bullet in the end.
Yes, I get a lot of these pictures from this site here called freakingnews.com, and I think, if you're interested in photography or manipulation of photography, have a look. There's some interesting stuff on there. I really like it. Okay, why do you think people start smoking, Simo? Do you think peer pressure plays a part in this?
Well, I think so. Especially with teenagers, I think peer pressure applies to teenagers. But with myself personally, Ray, like I've mentioned to you before, I started smoking at a young age because I was in a smoking environment when I grew up. My mother and my father didn't smoke, but my grandparents did, and they were heavy smokers, and I spent a lot of time with my grandparents when I was young. For example, my grandfather would roll his own cigarettes, Ray, but he'd do this while he's driving.
Whoa, dangerous.
So he would have both arms on the steering wheel while he rolls a cigarette. He used to roll them that thick he could hardly lick the paper and join the paper. Then he'd have the dag bits hanging out the end that he lit. So once he's tried to lit the cigarette, these lit dags are going all over his clothing, so he's looking down and brushing them all off his trousers, and naturally these little dags of tobacco that are on fire are burning holes in his trousers. So I suggested when I was about 9 years old that it might be safer and I might live longer if I roll the cigarettes and if I light them for him and pass them to him. I was petrified of having a head-on accident while he was rolling his own cigarettes.
Oh dear, what a sad story. All right. Look at this. Look at this. Another one of these things. Go ahead. It's your choice. One is faster and cheaper, and they both have the same end results. Wow. Okay. Well, a bullet's a lot cheaper, isn't it? And it definitely is faster.
Oh, most definitely. Now, this image is tells the same story as the previous one, and it's a good image. You got three bullets, you got two cigarettes, but in the end, they both have the same result.
Yeah. Well, one's slower, but it gets you. Why do you think it's so difficult for people to give up smoking and to quit it?
Well, smoking is addictive. Whether it's because of the tobacco or the chemicals that they add with the tobacco. And when you're addicted to something, it's very hard to give up. There's so many addictions: drinking coffee. Some people used to be addicted to Coca-Cola, gambling, alcoholism. So it's a drug, and for people to quit a drug or an addiction is very difficult in most cases, Ray.
Yes, I thought it was an interesting point you mentioned about the chemicals in cigarettes. Commercially produced cigarettes have a high percentage of chemicals in them, stuff like saltpeter, which is used in gunpowder. The idea being that this would make the cigarette continue to burn. For example, if you put it down somewhere, it'll burn. That makes you buy more cigarettes. Whereas the more natural stuff like roll your own tobacco doesn't have all those chemicals. And therefore is probably, if you're going to smoke, is probably a better alternative. But the chemicals are probably what really gets you hooked, because I've noticed that people who smoke roll your own cigarettes, for example, they can give up at will quite easily, whereas the people who smoke a lot of commercially made cigarettes don't.
Well, that's a way of people might try to get off cigarettes instead of smoking tailor-made cigarettes, which are the ones you buy in the packet ready to go. Maybe they should try rolling their own cigarettes. I found when I was smoking, especially in Australia with the price of cigarettes, I would smoke tobacco, Ray, the ones you roll yourself, and I found I smoked 50% less.
Yes, yes. Okay. Well, I guess if you're going to have to smoke, probably the best way to go is the more natural way. I mean, Cuban cigars, for example, I don't think they've got any chemicals in them, but boy, they're pretty strong, aren't they?
Well, like you see in the movies, in the older type of movies with the Cuban cigars, they're expensive, and I think, like you said, there is far less chemicals in the Cuban cigars, Ray.
Yeah, as an example, yes, of course. Do you think government should offer incentives to people to quit smoking?
I think so, Ray. I think if people of the world stopped smoking, it would be a healthier world. The governments realise the health issues with regards to the smoking industry. I believe they should offer incentives in way of rehabilitation and the replacement methods or things that you use to stop smoking should be at no cost. They should be free, supplied by the government.
There's a heck of a heavy tax on cigarettes in some countries. For example, here in Vietnam, where I live now, you can buy a packet of cigarettes for $1. But in Australia, the same packet of cigarettes costs in the vicinity of $25. So therefore, there must be a tax of at least $20 on it. So the government gets a lot of money, so they could probably fund some of these rehabilitation centres. However, do you think they would want to offer incentives for people to stop smoking, because they probably wouldn't get the same amount of tax anymore?
Well, like in our, we've had some private discussions, Ray. I believe that the governments, excuse me, especially governments in opposition, always criticise the government for being in the government in power. That is, right, for being in it for the money. You know, they want to. They earn a lot of money each year through the tax on cigarettes, and it's a good revenue for the government. But there's really no audit where you can see where that money from the taxes are going. Now, like I said, the opposition governments of the world criticise the governments in power for letting a product be sold that causes a lot of harmful health issues, causes a lot of health expenses both to the people and the governments. So yes, as long as the taxes are put to good use and concentrate on scientific research on how to stop smoking, not so much on what smoking does. We already know what they've done with regards to the scientific research on what it does. We need to study how to prevent people from smoking and how to help people stop smoking who do smoke, Ray.
Okay, very good point. What do you think about the idea of passive smoking, that is breathing in other people's cigarette smoke? You know, you're not smoking yourself, but if you're around a lot of people who are, and they're polluting the air around you, you don't have much choice except to, apart from breathing it in, do you? Look at this picture. These guys in a bar. Obviously, they're allowed to smoke there. And so what do you think about passive smoking?
I am a smoker, as I've informed you, Ray, and I do not like passive smoking. For example, in Vietnam here, when I go to Ho Chi Minh City, I go to a cafe, I might order a meal. The foreigners, mostly, who sitting close by, as soon as I get my meal, they light up a cigarette. And while I'm trying to eat my meal, their smoke, their second-hand smoke, is blowing straight across me, and I'm breathing in their second-hand smoke while I'm trying to enjoy my meal, Ray. It's not very good, and I disagree with passive smoking, because when you're a non-smoker, you really don't want to be smelling other people's smoke.
Yes, good point. What about, do you think banning smoking in some places, is that taking away people's freedom to choose to do what they like?
Well, in our country, Ray, in Australia, they have banned smoking in most areas throughout all different sectors of the community. I believe that it's a good move by the governments to ban put places where you're not allowed to smoke. It cuts down the passive smoking effect for the non-smokers, and also the cigarette butts in public places. Years ago, when everybody used to smoke, or a high percentage of people used to smoke, you used to see cigarette butts everywhere, Ray.
Like on the beaches in Malaysia.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Cigarette butt beach. Do you think smokers should have to pay higher health costs? I mean, if they are insured, they generally have to pay a higher premium. But I mean, if they go to the hospital, etc., for treatment related to diseases or sicknesses that have been caused by the fact that they smoke, should they have to pay higher costs than somebody who goes along and perhaps gets lung cancer from passive smoking, or from perhaps working in a smoky environment in a factory?
Well, I've got yes and no with this, Ray. As you said, the Australian government gets 80% of the sale price of the cigarettes. With insurance companies, well, insurance companies try to get as much money out of a person as possible, but I think with regards to both of the revenue that the insurance company gets and the governments get, they should invest in preventing the problem in the beginning. And the insurance companies, I think, if I was an insurance company and I was going to sign a policy with a smoker, I would charge that smoker more, because that smoker is going to have a lot of different health issues.
Yeah, they're more at risk, of course, aren't they? Do you think governments apply taxes to cigarettes to make money, or is it to try to encourage people to stop smoking by artificially making the cost higher?
It would be nice to be able to see what happens to the taxes that the governments receive from smoking. If the taxes are put to good use, that are going to cut down the amount of people who are smoking, create medicines or options people can do to give up smoking, I think it's good. But with regards to the government taxes, encouraging people to stop smoking, that depends on the advertising. It also depends on the government in an office at that time, Ray. Like I said, the opposition will always criticise the government in power at the time for their hypocritical view with regards to smoking. But once the opposition is in government and in power, they just continue with the same policy as the previous governments, I think, Ray.
Yes, I have to agree. Okay, it's probably a good way for smokers to have to pay for the high costs of hospitalisation, but because they do have to pay the higher tax anyway, I guess. All right, let's move on to the next bit. Lighting and smoking a cigarette is a distraction when we're driving, no matter how experienced a driver you could be. Do you think, well, you talked about this before, Simo, about how your granddad used to roll his own cigarettes and the solution you came to. What do you think about the suggestion that smoking and driving should be made illegal?
Well, the Australian government is looking into this side of the dangers of smoking while driving. With regards to the actual tailor-made cigarette, which is you just open the packet and grab one and put it in your mouth and light it, I don't see the distraction in that very much. With regards to the roll your own cigarettes, like my grandfather used to smoke, I think that should definitely be banned. Like I said, I used to be petrified of us having a head-on accident while he was rolling and lighting his cigarette.
Yeah, okay. Also, oh, look at this. Here's our friend Mr. Bean playing with the deadly weapons, nunchuck. I imagine in his hands they would definitely be a deadly weapon to him. And I notice his nunchucks are made out of cigarettes. I like this image.
I think it's a very good image, Ray. It tells a story. Like you said, nunchuckers are a weapon, a deadly weapon in most cases, with people who know how to use them. And that's exactly what cigarettes do. And the image is showing that when you're smoking, you're playing with a dangerous weapon.
Yeah, I guess so. Should Hollywood, Bollywood and places that make movies, should they be allowed to show smoking in movies? They used to in the past, didn't they?
For generations in the past, they used to, Ray, but back then there was no education and with regards to smoking. I don't see many movies now where there are people smoking. Maybe one in 15 or 20 movies that I've seen over the last 2 decades have people smoking. I don't think that smoking should be allowed in movies myself, personally.
Okay, well here we see a picture, a cartoon character. This is Popeye the Sailor Man. He's been very popular since the early 40s with kids. But look at him, he's smoking a pipe. What sort of message do you think that sends to children?
Well, like you said, Ray, this is a cartoon character that started in around the 1940s when there was no realisation of what smoking does to you. Now, in this photo, Ray, Popeye's got the old pipe. Now, that was the image of captains and sailors back then. They didn't smoke cigarettes, they mostly smoked pipes.
That's quite true. So probably because he's pretty old, it's probably acceptable. Okay, what do you think is worse for your health, smoking every day or drinking every day?
Oh, this is a hard one to answer, Ray. I think they're both equally the same with regards to your health. It depends. With drinking, the doctors or the medical people say that if you have a glass of red wine a day, it's good for your heart. But with smoking, if you have 6 cigarettes a day, you're really damaging your health over a long period of time.
Yes, because of course a lot of people do both, so it's a pretty deathly combination, I guess. Is smoking cool?
Definitely not anymore. I think that perception of smoking being cool faded out around about the mid 1980s to late 1980s, Ray.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And smokers save the state a lot of money because they die early, so they never get to claim a pension. Do you think the state should encourage smoking so that people don't get to claim their pensions?
Well, people who smoke might not only die earlier, but probably the last 3 years of their life, the medical expenses are extremely high because of the various damage that smoking does to all parts of your body and the organs inside your body. So most people who retire and are on the pension, on average, might be on the pension for maybe 6 to 7 years before they pass away. So, although this is a should the state encourage smoking for this reason? That's a funny one, Ray. I think
It'd be a bit of a pariah state, wouldn't it? Why don't governments ban smoking if it causes so many health problems?
Ray, I wish they would eliminate smoking from the world. I wish they would ban it. It would be a lot easier for the people who really want to give up if smokes just weren't available, Ray.
Right. Do you think it's because they get so much tax from the sale of tobacco, or is it because they don't want to restrict people's freedom?
Well, the governments say the later. It's because they don't want to restrict people's freedom, but I think that's a whole lot of hogwash. I think the governments enjoy getting the revenue from the sales tax on the cigarettes, Ray.
Yeah, I think so too. Are there many no smoking areas in your town?
Well, in Vietnam, there's none that I've seen except for the airport, the bus depots and the train stations. But in Australia, smokers can't smoke anywhere, really.
Yes, it's getting far more restrictive, isn't it, of course. Should smoking be banned on buses?
Ah, yes, Ray. Should be banned on all public transport.
How about in public offices?
Yep. It should be banned in all offices, public or private.
Hmm. Of course, on planes we know that it already is. What about in public parks where families go?
Most definitely, Ray. A lot of people disagree with me in this because they want to have a freedom of choice, but parks are mostly for young couples with young children, and it's not a good image for your children to see people in a park smoking cigarettes because they're curious about the cigarette, and in future it could cause them to be curious enough to try the cigarettes, Ray.
Yes, quite so. So where can smokers go?
Maybe on the patio of your own house.
Okay. What does smoking do to your health? Well, we know it kills people. Look at these. Here's some famous people. Humphrey Bogart killed him. Yul Brynner had killed him, and he went on a great campaign to try to say, don't do what I did. Winston Churchill died of a smoking-related disease. Nat King Cole died of lung cancer. Gary Cooper died of lung cancer. Sammy Davis Jr. died of throat cancer. And Walt Disney, the famous promoter and cartoonist, died of lung cancer too. So it definitely has a difficult end for you. We often see tobacco company ads, well, we don't see them very much anymore, but they always showed healthy, happy-looking people, or even in this case, we see a dentist recommending a certain brand of cigarettes. This is a bit old now, but why do you think they used people like that?
Well, this is, like you said, these are old images when smoking and the facts about smoking weren't realised by the general public. Also, when I was young, we had commercials on TV about smoking. The Marlboro Man. In Australia, we had Paul Hogan with Anyhow Have a Winfield, which is a cigarette brand. But since around about the 1980s, smoking advertising was banned in all media outlets within Australia. So, but it was just a good way of marketing their product, Ray.
Yes, it tends to lend something to the credibility of the product, that it's a healthy thing. I mean, a dentist saying, "Oh, I recommend such and such a brand cigarette," certainly makes you think it's okay, doesn't it? How would the world be? How different would it be if smoking was suddenly banned? Do you think there'd be a lot of people going crazy because they couldn't smoke anymore?
I think so. Statistically wise, it is proven fact that a lot of people, the higher percentage of people, go through mood swings, and the mood swings are mostly aggressive. when they're giving up smoking.
Yeah, I guess the thing is it would probably drive cigarette sales underground into the black market.
Yes, I agree with you on that point, Ray. Yes.
Okay. What do you think about a pregnant woman smoking?
I hate seeing pregnant women smoking. I know it's a addictive drug, but when you have a innocent little baby inside your stomach, it's an unwilling participant, and I think pregnant women should be helped. Maybe put in a rehabilitation centre until they stop smoking through their pregnancy.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I think people who are smoking, pregnant women who are smoking, oh dear, selfish bitches.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Someone once said, "I'd rather kiss a mad cow on the muzzle than a smoker on the mouth." What do you think about that?
Well, I've never kissed a mad cow, Ray, but I myself really don't like kissing a woman smoker. But that's pretty hypocritical because I'm a smoker myself. So, yeah, I like the image of the photo with all the cigarette butts in the mouth. That's a pretty good image of exactly how a person's breast smells like when they smoke.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, we're gonna. Do you think smoking will ever disappear?
I think probably within 100 years it will, Ray.
Okay, very good. All right, that's the end of this. So today, let's have a look at our vocabulary. I'll go through this quite quickly. Peer pressure is a noun when our colleagues and friends try to influence us to do something. Quit is a verb which means to stop doing something. An incentive is a noun, something attractive to encourage us to do something. Passive is an adjective. It means we're not involved. Example, passive smoking, smoking but not having a cigarette, etc. in our mouth. Liberty is a noun. It means freedom. Chain smoking is a gerund. It means smoking one cigarette after another. Restrict is a verb. It means to limit something. And banned is a verb which means something is not allowed. It's the past tense of it. Okay, and pregnant is an adjective which means carrying a developing baby inside. A muzzle is a noun. It means the nose of an animal, or it can refer to a restrictive device on some animals which might bite you. Tobacco is a noun, the plant from which cigarettes, etc. are made. Thank you for having a look at this today. Sorry we're rounding this up a little bit quickly, but don't forget, here are our contact details, and don't forget that the Fly on the Wall series is completely spontaneous. None of this has been rehearsed. We hope you've enjoyed this today, and thank you very much for your time.